When did you have this, I guess, vision where you wanted to maybe kind of take your career or your life into this mermaid land? Like, when did that all kind of start?
Where, when?
Right? Yeah.
So I was that kid that was always at the bottom of the pool laying, how long can I stay down there, and having my own little tea parties and picking up pennies from the bottom of the pool. And I saw the film Splash that featured Daryl Hannah, the actress, when I was 9 years old. And that inspired me to make my first tale.
I think every little kid probably wanted to be a mermaid at that
after
point,
that.
right?
She was so glorious.
Yes.
And the fact that her name was Hannah, and that she was a vegetarian like myself, so I was extra inspired by her. And she ended up being such an incredible role model in a lot of other ways. She's super green, she's off grid, she goes to Burning Man, all the things that I'm about. So very cool. So that was a little vignette in time. For 6 months I swam around in this tale, but I always held on to that vision of I would like to do that again. And then in my 20s, I started doing modeling, and I got hired for an underwater shoot against all these other girls that were super gorgeous and tall and younger and prettier and skinnier and all the things that I perceived. But when they got in the water, they looked like dying blowfish. And I realized that I had this skill to just be really chill under there and hold my breath a long time. And I'd been a visual artist for many years, and I'd been painting all of these mermaid scenes and fairy scenes, and I realized underwater was the way that I could become my artwork. And so I started making mermaid tales, and I didn't do it as a career move. It was an artistic expression. And then once I started making photo shoots and everything, people were like, oh, we want to hire you as a mermaid.
So have you ever met Daryl Hannah?
Yes, I actually had a couple meetings with her. I spoke on stage at Earth Day LA 2010, and she was also speaking, and my friend who was putting it on introduced us, and she was very sweet and accommodating to me, because I don't get struck by anybody, but seeing her, because she'd had such a formative influence on me, I was just like, oh my God, you don't understand, I'm a mermaid because you were a mermaid. I turned into my little 9-year-old self. And
I'm sure that's not conversations that she has on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, probably not all the time. Anyway, so she was very sweet. She's like, show me your tail. She came backstage. I put my tail on, and she was like sitting next to me, putting her legs under my tail, saying, oh, yours is so much prettier than mine was. And I'm like, girl, I do not believe you for a second, but you're very sweet. Thank you for making all my 9-year-old dreams come true. She was also a supporter of Sea Shepherd, and I performed at a Sea Shepherd event to help with fundraising and so forth. And
what is a Sea Shepherd event? What is that?
Sea Shepherd is an organization, nonprofit organization, that sends big ships out into Antarctica and all around the world to defend animals against poaching, overfishing, whaling. So they're very, very hardcore environmentalists that put animals first.
Wow.
Led by Captain Paul Watson, who's a
and I know
friend.
you do a lot of philanthropic kind of charity work like that, which we'll get to here in a bit. So you've done some pretty amazing and elaborate photo shoots.
Indeed.
I was looking at your Instagram, and I think there was one that you just did. It was like a vintage dive suit inspired one.
Yeah. So I have two fantastic photographers in Los Angeles, and I'd never worked with them together. I put their heads together, and we came up with this concept. We'd seen this beautiful artwork online, and it's a picture of a mermaid approaching an old school vintage diver. And she looks like she's coming in for an intimate moment with him, but in fact, out of the diver's eye, she has a knife and she's about to cut his air hose. And we just fell in love with this image. We were like, what if we could create this for real? But then it became like, okay, where do we find a vintage diver? Because those suits are so obsolete, so dangerous, and really old now. And we connected with this guy who's a badass commercial diver who's been in the most life-threatening, insane situations. And he was like, yep, I'm going to do this. He found a vintage, like World War II era dive suit with the old metal bell helmet with the little tiny portals, and it's connected back from the helmet back to the boat, 50 foot of hose.
Wow.
And he said, I'll do it. So it was like a stunt in itself to have him in this suit and shoot him. And then you add me, legs bound in a mermaid tail out in the open ocean with swell happening, and me with a very, very sharp knife next to his air hose, trying not to actually cut it, but make it look like I was.
Sure.
So this was quite the undertaking that we did last week. We haven't even released the pictures yet, but
wow,
it's going to be,
so
it's a world first. No one's done it before.
It all started with a vision.